Okay, let's get into this. So basically, this is not something that's going to look good for the Republican side. I do both videos. I go after the Republicans, I go after the Democrats, and I show you the positive and negative of both, Democratic and Republican parties. This is something that's not going to be super great for the Republican side. There was an article created basically by urban.org, Urban Institute kind of stuff. And what you have to keep in mind is that they did a study analysis on how many jobs were actually available, or sorry, as to how many people were applying for disability benefits and how the backlog was getting cleared when it comes to those who were applying and either being found disabled or not being found disabled. Here's the headline. The SSI says it reduced the disability claims backlog. Fewer new claims and a higher denial rate could be driving the reduction. Let's go through it real quick. Social Security Administration recently announced it reduced its backlog of new applications for both Social Security disability insurance and Supplemental Security income, the two disability programs, pay to play, poverty. As of July 2025, the number of people waiting for an initial determination, so a couple of months ago, on their claim totaled approximately 940,000. So it's officially under a million person backlog, just under 940,000. Okay. This marks a reduction from an all-time high of 1.26 million people waiting in May of 2024, right? Because the bottom line was during the Biden era, when Martin O'Malley got in, things were really, really bad. He worked it. He did a lot of cool things where he showed us the statistics, and we all appreciate that because those statistics helped us understand specifically where the SSA was at with call times, getting rid of the backlog, etc. During and following the pandemic, the SSA experienced a period of extremely high turnover that reduced productivity by about 20%. In 2023 and 2024, the agency invested in hiring and training staff to get back to full productivity. This earlier investment in staffing is now bearing fruit at the agency, but it doesn't fully explain the reduction in the backlog. Because remember, even though they got more staff on board after they had a massive loss, right, because they were at a 50-year low of employment, it doesn't explain why they're able to process so many more claims than they were before, especially with a 7,000 person reduction that basically trumped it, bringing it from 50,000 workers down to 5,000. Down to 50,000. At the same time, two surprising and concerning trends in disability claims and state law level data have emerged. A decrease in new disability claims and an increase in initial denials. Remember, a decrease in people filing for disability has been going on because people don't want to go on disability benefits anymore because they don't pay enough. Like even when you're on them, you can't afford to survive. It's unclear what's driving these developments, and the SSA has not acknowledged them. On the one hand, fewer new claims and more denials could mean fewer people need support. On the other hand, it could mean people with disabilities are facing more barriers to applying for benefits. To better understand what's driving the decrease in claims, increase in denials, and reduction in the backlog, the SSA could invest more in the research and staff needed to study these trends. But, as we've kind of seen, the new commissioner has removed some of the statistics we normally have and put up other statistics. So we're seeing a little bit of hide the ball with the new commissioner. Some things he's being more forward with, some things not so much. And Martin O'Malley was really the most forward when it comes to showing us what's actually going on, what we can see, what's happening, etc. So he was a good commissioner when it comes to like transparency, but the agency is not healthy. It's not healthy. All right. So fewer people are applying for disability benefits. Recently released state level data reveal that disability applications are down 7% in fiscal year 2025 compared with fiscal year 2024. Over the past 10 months, 163,000 fewer applications for benefits have been submitted. So just to be clear, not even a full year, 163,000 new applicants less. So there just weren't those many people applying. A small decline in applications is not unusual. Application rates have gradually declined over the past decade, but began to increase in 2023 and 2024 as the SSA Office of the Chief Actuary forecasts a modest increase in their long-term projection. Demographic factors such as more people reaching near retirement age can also affect the number of applicants, but these, people get older, they're more likely to apply for disability. But these changes are relatively small from year to year. Similarly, improving health and job prospects could be causing fewer people to seek benefits. However, these factors would result in gradual decreases in the number of people applying. What they're saying is there's a sharp cut in people applying for disability benefits, and they're not sure why. It's called Bidenomics. That's why. It's called Bidenomics. That's people can't afford to be disabled anymore, which is like a really weird thing to say because the whole point of being disabled is that you couldn't work, but literally people can't afford to survive on disability benefits alone for the most part, okay? Other more concerning factors that could be driving fewer people to apply for disability benefits are the SSA's large claims backlog and long wait times. In recent years, underfunding and pandemic-related staffing disruptions caused the average time someone spends waiting for an initial disability determination to more than double, okay, from 3.7 months in 2017 to a peak of 7.7 months in August of 2024. That's all over the place, but the average person at the initial filing level is waiting around, I would say, 9 months to 18 months. It's kind of the swing depending on what part of the nation you're in, things like that. Even now, wait times remain above 7 months. Research shows longer wait times and field office closures correlate with fewer applications. That's a jab at essentially Trump because he, fired a bunch of staff, retired a bunch of staff, closed a bunch of offices. This would be a cause of concern, as people with severe and long-term disabilities could be deterred from applying for critical benefits in healthcare because of the SSA's failure to fully process claims it receives in a timely manner. The SSA is denying more disability claims at the initial stage. State-level data shows that the SSA processed 8% more initial disability claims in 2025, an increase of 159,000 decisions. So let me go through that again. That's an important stat here real quick. State-level data shows the SSA processed 8% more disability claims in 2025, an increase of 159,000 decisions. So they're ramping up somehow. However, over the same period, the share of claims the SSA approved fell by nearly 3 percent points, from 38.7% in fiscal year 2024 to an average of 36% in fiscal year 2025. To assess the SSA's denial rates in fiscal year 2025, we use state-level data through July 2025. For the remaining 2 months of the fiscal year, we use levels in 2024. So just to be clear, they're noticing that people are getting more denials, especially at the initial filing stage when it comes to disability benefits. Now, remember I did that video where I explained, hey, they don't have like quota lists where they got to like fire or deny this many claimants, but yet consistently they know a certain amount's going to get approved, a certain amount's going to get denied. So there's no actual list, but culturally, percentage-wise, they know it's going to be around so many approved and so many denied. Okay. It's unclear. Okay, here we go. The drop in the approval rate means that while the number of approved claims remained flat at about 812,000 from 2024 to 2025, denials account for the entire increase in the total number of decisions. If the approval rate remained at 38.7%, an estimated 61,000 more people would have been approved in 2025. So what they're saying is they're speeding up, but they're fast tracking and denying a lot more people. Just to be clear again, if approval rates remained at 38.7%, an estimated 61,000 more people would have been approved in 2025. Okay. So the problem we're facing here is that a chunk of people are being processed more quickly, and their denials are pretty much the change is just all denials. Okay. So any speed they've picked up, it's through denying people much faster and a lot of people. It's unclear why the denial rate has increased, and it's unusual that the rate is up given the concurrent decline in applications. Typically, application numbers and approval rates don't move in the same direction together. For example, during periods of recession, applications typically increase while approval rates fall. When there's a recession, you have a lot more people applying because they can't find a job, right? And then a lot of those people that could potentially do a job are just trying to get disability benefits because they want to check, right? But if you have the amount of people applying for disability benefits decreasing, right? There's less people interested in filing for disability benefits, then more of the people who most likely need it are actually filing. So the percentage of approval should technically go up. Recession-driven job loss or increased labor market difficulties have led more applicants with less clear eligibility to apply for benefits. So in other words, what they're saying is Bidenomics created a unique situation where jobs were not available, and pretty much the money that they pay is just not good. So you're getting all kinds of people applying for disability benefits that you normally wouldn't see as a percentage, because when Bidenomics finished up, people were poor, they didn't have money, they couldn't find a job, they couldn't keep a job, even if they were with capacity to work. The speed with which the approval rate has recently dropped is also atypical, though the annual approval rate has fluctuated by about 5% points over the past 25 years. Such changes are usually quite gradual. The current drop from an average 38.3% over the past 4 years to 36% is sharper than usual. And remember, that seems like a small percentage, but it's not. That's a significant chunk of people It's a significant chunk. The quick drop in approval rates is likely cause for concern. There's no evidence of any policy or program changes that would reduce approvals nationally. However, the SSA has recently seen reductions in staffing and funding. Conversations with people involved with the disability claim approval process suggest claim reviewers could be experiencing pressure to make decisions more quickly to achieve the agency's claims processing goals. Now, the SSA believes that they do not have quota termination lists. But what they do have are, and I'll read it again, agency claims processing goals. You see, there's a difference there. One seems really illegal and bad. Those are quotas for denying people. Those are bad. And one seems like an objective that's good, known as agency claims processing goals. You see that? You see how the words, you see how they do that? You got it? All right. They also suggest that staff know a denial is faster to process than an allowance. To better understand the drop in approval rates, the SSA could analyze claim decisions across states and among claim reviewers. How more data could help the SSA reduce the backlog in claims while ensuring fairness to access to critical benefits? Despite the recent backlog reductions, the SSA still faces historically high numbers of people waiting for a decision on their disability benefit claim. Many will have to wait years to see their claim fully resolved as the SSA works to reduce the disability claim backlog and wait times. The agency can still use data to monitor and ensure faster decisions don't come at the expense of accurate decisions. Under the Trump administration, the SSA has moved to push out roughly 7,000 employees, including many of the staff who would have been responsible for analyzing these potentially concerning trends in higher denial rates and reduced applications. In light of this, the SSA needs to engage in a thorough review of the disability determination process to ensure accurate decisions are being made at the initial and the reconsideration stages. This will result in disability programs that are as accessible as they were intended to be without imposing unnecessary hardships on applicants and relying on a costly appeals process to get the right decision. What they're saying is the Trump Social Security Administration is denying a lot more people a lot faster. And that's how they've been able to reduce the backlog significantly. And maybe they're using more AI now. And maybe there's a bunch of claims that like there was no hope, they were never going to go through anyways, and they're just zipping through them. So we'll know how this progresses over time, whether or not they're able to get rid of the easy denial claims faster with AI, or whether or not there's now a culture at the SSA of just trying to basically go ahead and deny these benefits. So the point that I'm getting at with this is we're seeing a dangerous trend at the initial filing and reconsideration stages of disability application process, which doesn't make Trump look good because it looks like there's a nefarious culture going on at the SSA that is in the push denials objective. Now, of course, they have agency goals, which are not denial quotas, right? You see what they do there? So the point is, we're going to have to watch this carefully because people applying in the future for disability benefits are very likely running into a situation where there's a significant increase of denials and people are going to feel like the system is even more fair than ever. Because remember, at the end of the day, people paid their entire life into the system, right? And just being denied here and there for disability benefits is not a good look for the Trump situation because he wants Social Security recipients to vote for him. Now, what he really wants are the retired to vote for him. What he doesn't really care as much about because of the numbers would be the disabled population, which is ironic because Republicans, just to be fair, when it comes to the political heads, we're not smart enough to counter Democrats on the whole victimhood thing. Because remember, Republicans could have countered with the disabled being the true victims and the retired being the true victims instead of these kids who are capable of working and then basically just, like to scream words like, just total anarchy words. It's just, it is what it is. I'm not getting into it because it gets me all like throttled up because at the end of the day, like you have so many kids fighting these agendas that they have no real connection to when it comes to survival. And somebody's paying them to do it. Somebody's paying for them to riot. Somebody's paying for them to go and, stand in front of cars or try and drive through a highway. And to me, you can never argue with one of those types of individuals because no matter what, they are the victim. Even though they've got, a MacBook Pro and, label clothing and this and that. A lot of times, some of them don't, but a lot of them do. A lot of them do, and I meet them, and it frustrates me because like the true victims are the disabled and the retired. And if we can just get the Republican Party or the Democratic Party to recognize that these, 20-year-olds that are out there screaming, that they want this and this is what they're going to march for aren't the real victims, but that the disabled and retired are the real victims, I feel like America would be a way better place. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. Because think about it. If you ever walk up to somebody who's screaming something and you ask them, do they feel like they're a victim? They're going to give you this long spiel. Oh, this right, and I didn't have this, and when I did this, and da 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 da. Look, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like at the end of the day, underrepresented people are now hyper represented, right? Hyper represented, more than the actual percentages of individuals that are underrepresented. Okay. They're more on TV than they've ever been before. They're more than the statistical relevance of it. In fact, the SSA got caught during the Biden administration promoting, under the Commissioner Kijikazi era of commission, that they had more people there that were minorities than the actual statistics of what the percentage of share of different individuals would be, that they were really proud of this. Now, if you flip that on its head, you're basically proud that you were able to push out whites, which is not good, right? Because it's like you're basically advertising racism. And it's not good. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's been weird. It's just been a weird ride. Like I've been following and watching and seeing all this stuff come down. And the really weird part about it is like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there are poor people everywhere, of every religion, of every gender, of every skin color, of every background, meaning like criminal levels. You know what I mean? Like criminal this, criminal that. There are poor people everywhere. It bothers me because like we don't go and try to fix poverty we can't fix poverty by creating a class of victims. We can't fix it that way. You just can't fix it that way. I'm telling you, you can't fix it that way. Yes, you have to look at impoverished individuals as an individual because their family's not willing to support them or this happened or this happened, and then they became impoverished. I get that. But you can't look at, them as a victim because of other factors that would limit without taking the whole picture in. And that's what really upsets me about this is like, if we want to go ahead and spend money, the real victims are the disabled and the retired. The people who are not on disability benefits, who are not disabled, who are receiving a welfare check. I don't know, what do you think? When do we change it to put more of that money towards the disabled and the retired? Like, when do we change the system? When do we say, okay, cool, everybody should be good now? Everybody should have reached a level of this. I know some of you will argue that we now have lots of new immigrants from the Biden era, and there's a lot of Haitian individuals and Indian individuals and South American individuals, and they're this new group of people that are going to be basically we have a lot of new Middle Eastern individuals that need to be taken care of, and then the new minority class and the new this, new that. But if we're just fair, why not fix the people who can't actually work by giving them more money? The fragile class, disabled, retired, some of the widows, etc. Why not fix that? Because those are the people who truly can't work. You know what I mean? When somebody's 85, we don't really expect them to be working. When somebody's got a virus or some sort of disease that keeps them from being able to do functional tasks, we should take care of them more so than mass minority immigration and supplementation. It's just my thought. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm a terrible person. Maybe I'm a horrible person when I say that. But at the end of the day, like, if you're somebody that's 25, getting your second college degree and you're running around screaming, bring down capitalism. Okay. But then what's going to pay for the disabled, right? Communism doesn't pay for disabled people. It doesn't. Doesn't pay for retired either. It doesn't. Socialism does. Communism, it can't be afforded. Socialism sucks on capitalism. Because remember, socialism can't exist without capitalism or some form of it. It just can't exist. Communism never survives. You know what I mean? And socialism only exists when capitalism fails. If we had a system where people made a lot of money working jobs, there would be no need for traditional retirement because people would have big savings as retired individuals. You would still have an SSI program to catch the people who, invested poorly, whatever. But point is, like, you wouldn't need it in the way that it is. But we do need it because people don't know how to invest because they don't know economics. They don't know money. They don't know how it works. And that's fine. More people have learned more about economics, financial earnings from the internet than ever before. You are going to be seeing the ending of traditional universities over the next 10 years. And I got to be honest, as somebody who literally pays more in student loans than most of you receive in monthly check, I got to be honest, I am not super against that. I would rather see online school and online school be very cheap to achieve the certificate. I'd rather see that. Build into it that you have to intern places and workplaces. Fine, build that into it. I'm not sold on us having to go to a university for all those years, spend all that money, and then have to pay it back for the rest of our lives. It just doesn't work for me. Anyways, I will catch you all a little bit later. You have a wonderful night. Please remember to like and subscribe. Head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. Throw some stars up there. I go live on Mondays and Thursdays to answer questions for free. And then if you want to do a private session, mini contract is below. And of course, America's Most Viewed, subscribe to and click on Disability Attorney. Today is my last day of vacation where I get to actually not have to work. I did a little bit of work here and there. I'm obviously working right now, but tomorrow, Monday, back on the 9 to 5 calls. I will catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Have fun. Bye-bye.